Hi everyone, welcome to Planet's first quarterly update for Microsoft products for 2025. My name is Lewis, I'm a technical architect specializing in modern work, and today it's talking about what's new in Microsoft, what's coming up in the next few months, and the core releases for the Office products. We'll start with Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams has had quite a few updates over the last few months, but I'm going to focus on the core three, which I think are most beneficial. So the first one is scheduling channel messages. Previously, you still can send a message and have it scheduled on Teams, but that's only with a direct chat. Hopefully, you probably know Outlook has this function to send an email. I use it quite often. But I don't use in Teams. But for channels, it is very beneficial, especially if you're working with teams and you need to send an update out to a global team that might not align with your time zone. Next is the record video and share it option. So this is it's sort of like a voice notes approach. It's a voice note approach to communicating with your team again in the channel. So on your phone or on Teams directly, you'll be able to record a video of yourself or a voice note and send it in the channel directly. What you'll see over the past few months is Microsoft has really done a lot of work on Microsoft channels and Microsoft Teams. They are revamping the layout in this, 2025 now, to make it a bit more accessible for users, an easier way to manage your teams, hide them, and filter through them. The final one that I thought is probably I think is the most important is watermarkings for Teams meetings. So if you don't know what sensitivity labels are a way to categorize data within your 365 organization. Most companies will use highly confidential, or sensitive, or internal, public, those sort of tags to categorize their data. So data within Outlook, data within SharePoint, and Teams messages. And what you can do is you can set a Teams meeting as highly confidential, for example, and then on the Teams meeting itself, it will have watermark saying highly confidential. And you can change that watermark to say whatever you like, do not share, etc. And it just means that when people join the meeting, external or internal, they know that this meeting has been tagged. They know that permissions and more policies are being applied to it, and obviously importantly, is highly confidential. It shouldn't be shared with the outside world. Next up, we have Outlook. The biggest one here is the Toggles new Outlook. So hopefully everyone is already on the new Outlook version. Microsoft is forcing it, but they have now switched around how the new toggle works. So previously it used to be you could switch to new Outlook whenever, and then you could switch back. So now from January 2025, you have to tag, or you have to toggle this off. So by default, new Outlook will be on. So first time user setup, when this update gets pushed out, it's going to force new Outlook upon them, and if they don't want it, they have to turn it off. And like I said, that's coming January 2025. There is an admin option to disable this completely if you don't want to force it, but in my personal experience, unless you're still using a common add-on, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be using new Outlook. In March, we're looking to get the PST support for new Outlook. It's taken a long time to get this working. New Outlook, for some reason, hasn't been able to interact with PST files, probably because it's more of a web app now rather than an actual application. But in March, they're releasing support to be able to open PST mailboxes and manage files within a PST, so you can move them about and stuff, which will hopefully make uploading PSTs to 365 a lot easier. Obviously, if you're doing a large migration for email migrations, you should use something like BitTitle or CloudM Migrator. But if it's just a single PST, then you can always use this directly into Outlook now. So that's in March 2025, so a little way away. In February, we are getting the feature for delegates to have more control over people's mailboxes. And this is in the form of categories. So I use categories within my Outlook to categorize the meetings, so custom meetings, partner meetings, events, stuff like that. Now, if I was to give delegate access to, let's say, a personal assistant, I wish I had one, they would be able to also categorize, create categorization and assign it. There are a few other bits coming with delegation, but we're just waiting to hear from that before we put them in this. Next up is Copilot. There's 2 slides for Copilot, quite a few things. First one in February, they are adding a prepare for meetings function. So when you open a Teams meeting or Outlook meeting, it will give you the option to prepare. And what Copilot will do is it will obviously read the meeting, read who's invited, and it will find relevant documents to help you prepare for the meeting. I do have my doubts about this one. I'm sure I'm not the only one in this boat where when you go on a meeting and it shows you relevant documents, it just shows you random stuff sometimes not related to the meeting, but it's not because that person has worked on a document or you've sent it to them or something like that. Hopefully some proofs on it using Copilot instead of what they're using at the moment. Again, in February, they are adding prompt auto suggestions. So in the moment, Copilot does use something called a prompt library, which is a really cool feature where you can upload your prompts so everyone in the business can see it. Now, once you use a prompt, auto suggestions can autofill what you're trying to ask Copilot. So it will recall prompts that you've used before. So it will remember and it hopefully will learn. And obviously it will give you recommendation on prompts while you're typing them out, kind of like word spell check, stuff like that. And then the ability to share prompts with co-workers as well. This is using the loop function. So in Copilot phase 2 that came out at Ignite last year, they announced Wave 2, and Copilot agents and Copilot pages and loops were all included, and this is part of that rollout where you'll be able to share your prompts and responses with other users, so then they can take that prompt and edit it or continue asking questions about to Copilot. And then they were all February. These are all January. So this month, image input support. So this was available, and then they took it away. You now have to be signed in with an Entra ID account and a Copilot license to be able to upload an image, and then it can use ACR or image recognition to be able to look at it, and then you can ask questions to Copilot about the image, analyze it, stuff like that. Like I said, it was available to everyone. Now it's only available to the Copilot license users signed in with an Entra ID account. They've looking to release Copilot agents. Like I said, this was announced in Wave 2 last year. There's a lot I could talk about Copilot agents, but the first set of Copilot agent functionalities is coming in the forms of Microsoft Teams. So you'll be able to add agents directly to team groups. So the best example that I use is you create a help desk agent. And then within a Teams chat with your fellow help desk engineers, you can add an agent in there that can pick up on questions, issues, and be able to pick them up and hopefully respond and provide answers without having people actually respond and taking up time. Obviously, there's loads of uses for Copilot agents, and I highly suggest that you go check out Wave 2 Ignite from last year. And then finally, the option for users to delete Copilot activity in history. So as Copilot evolves, Microsoft is obviously going to use it to learn user patterns, so Copilot can learn from you easier. Users can wipe this history, but to be very clear, this does not wipe the history from the 365 tenant. It only wipes it from the user side. So a user wouldn't be able to see their chats. Copilot won't remember their chats, stuff like that. But if you were to use Purview to generate a report on what that user's done with Copilot, you'll still be able to see everything within that list, regardless if they delete the data or not. So Microsoft 365 apps received quite a few updates And a lot of depreciations as well. The first one being Viva Goals retirements in a year's time, so that's December 2025. Not many people I think used Viva Goals. We don't here at Planet, but it's just good to know that this is now being retired, December 31st, 2025. Next up is Microsoft Forms. Received quite a big update. This is in line with a bunch of updates they're doing with Forms to make it more accessible. They are integrating Excel directly into Forms, so you'll be able to export data from Forms into Excel and it can be live. So if you have Excel open with the data and people fill in the forms, it will auto update on Excel. Excel will just pull the data from Forms. It's a really useful way of analyzing the data you receive from Microsoft Forms. It also works the other way. You can create forms from Excel and a bunch of other stuff they're looking to add. The integration should be a really good feature to Forms. And then in March 2025, Microsoft Search in Bing is being depreciated. So there was this must have a really small footprint, but Microsoft had a functionality where they had their own search engine outside of Bing, called Microsoft Search, which you could use within 365. I don't think anyone used it. I personally never knew it even existed. It's being depreciated. Obviously, it's just being replaced with Bing instead of Microsoft's own one. For the admin side of Microsoft 365, in December 2025, they are adding new features to the message trace within Exchange. So you can now have a extended query range. So they are extending how long or how far you can search mailboxes for. I think at the moment it's currently a year. I don't know what it would be extended to, but hopefully it should be 2 or 3. You can now do subject filters within the Exchange mail trace once it's done, and delivery status. You can see if it's failed, sent, been caught in spam or whatever. Rolling out this month, which I think is already out in January, is Universal Print for macOS. This has been a long time coming. People who have macOS in their business will hopefully rejoice because they won't have to use Apple AirPrint. And you can now use Universal Print for Entra ID'd managed macOS devices. And obviously that means that you can have a unified solution of Universal Print across the board for Windows, iPhone, macOS, and Android. And then finally, Microsoft Defender, the third-party applications. Basically, what this means, and I think this is going to be a useful feature in the future, but I don't know how far Microsoft's going to go with it. It looks like they are testing it at the moment. They're testing the waters. But what this will allow is, at the moment, admins and security operators can use third-party applications to report Outlook messages directly to Microsoft Defender. So if you're using something like Mimecast, for example, and you have the add-on within Outlook and you report a message, then as an admin, you'll be able to report it and Mimecast can send it to Microsoft instead, or as well as Mimecast. So you can have a double layer of protection. Again, it looks like they're testing it as it's only an admin thing at the moment. We will have to see where they go with this. Because there'll be people out there who do use both third-party firewalls, as you should, and Microsoft's built-in one with 365 that comes with Defender Plan 1 and Plan 2. That's the wrap-up for today. I hope to see you guys next time on the quarterly update, and we'll have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. There's a lot of new exciting stuff coming to Microsoft. And if you ever need to reach out for anything, please reach out to my email, lewis.kitchen@planetit-.net.